Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Demon's Warehouse vlogs. This time it's a vlog about, well, as you can probably tell by the title, this is a video about my favorite cars and my kind of strange taste in cars, which doesn't exactly help. So before we get too far into the specific cars, which I right now have kind of a top 4 and then a bonus three or four way tie for the 5th car because I don't really have a top 5 because it's really hard to decide the last one. Unfortunately, I can't afford any but one of these cars, ironically enough. Now, to go into the specifics of my taste in cars in the first place, so a detail I need to add in before we get too far is I actually would love to be able to be a car collector. I know it's not exactly going to be something possible just because my taste in cars, unfortunately, is quite expensive, so I would definitely have to be able to spend at least like $1 or $2 million on the cars I like. But the advantage I have in it is that even though it's $1 or $2 million, it still includes probably somewhere around 20 some cars. So I'm at least not so far forward. Like, I'm not interested in Bugattis, I'm not really interested in Koenigsegg. They're both good companies, they're just not cars I really ever want to own just because I'm not that type of person. I like exotic cars, but I don't like exotic cars that you can only really drive on a track because at that point it's kind of inconvenient when you live in Wyoming. Let's put it that way. So further depth-wise goes, I technically have 3 categories of cars that I want to collect. Pretty simple to explain some of them, clear to the point of I'm actually going to be starting off in a weird way by showing you one of my favorite cars of all time is an entire category. So let's go into it. So the first section that I have cars that I really enjoy collecting is what I call the weirdos. Pretty much universally when it comes to any automaker, my favorite car from an automaker usually is the one that stood out the most, the weirdest one, the strangest one, the one that has like the most bizarre features compared to everything else. The biggest example I can have of this one is my basically favorite Chrysler vehicle. I don't really want to specify Chrysler because I prefer it by Plymouth, is the Plymouth Prowler, which, ta-da, you see the picture. It is an extremely weird car. Something I didn't even realize is that I've apparently had a Hot Wheel of it forever, which is hilarious, but it's a car I definitely would eventually like to own. My only issue that I have with it is that I can never drive it with the top up. And it does have a soft top. Like, I guarantee you it has a soft top. It's just tiny. That, however, is not one of my top 5 cars, but I just wanted to explain, it's the weirdos. Pretty much any car company, guarantee you I like the weirdest one they've ever made. And almost universally, I only ever really like one car per automaker, and that even includes things like Ferrari, Lamborghini. There's the only really like 2 Lamborghinis in existence I like. Ferrari, there's only actually 1. Porsche, I only really like 1. That type of stuff. It's basically, I like 1 car per manufacturer. The second one I then have to go into, unfortunately, is one that's got kind of weird mixed reviews. It's one of those that if you like them yourself, you already know that you get a lot of flack for it, and if you don't like them, you're the guys who are going to be giving us flack. I like station wagons. And I do legitimately mean station wagons. The 4-door cars with the hatchback that are super short, squatty, the dad mobiles. The reasons that I like them actually come entirely from, once again, I live in Wyoming. I make that extremely well known. We get 60, 80 mile an hour wind gusts without any questions. And the big broadside of crossovers, minivans, SUVs, trucks catches the wind and makes it really hard to drive. I like vehicles that are low to the ground, very low profile, but I like that advantage of a hatchback, and station wagons happen to be able to be the best of both worlds. Furthermore, a lot of automakers now actually make the station wagons in such a way that it's basically like they're sports sedans, but with a bigger back, which is altogether exactly what I want. Like, one of the biggest examples I can have here is the Mercedes-Benz AMG E63, which of course is known as the ridiculous, like I think it's a 400 or 500 horsepower station wagon with a V8 engine. I would absolutely love one of those, just because it is that usability with the fun. I mean, it's a well-known performance vehicle. Another example here is Audi Allroad. Okay, I completely forgot about the name of that. And this even includes other things like Jaguar. Never been a big Jaguar person. I know that I could probably fit in some of the older ones, only some of them though. But I actually prefer the new Jaguar XJ Sport Brake. I actually really like the styling of it. Once again though, it's a station wagon. It's going to get a lot of mixed reviews. This, funny enough, also even applies to a brand that I'm currently staring at because I don't live that far from the dealership, which is Buick. I actually really like the looks of the new Buick Regal Tour X. Point of, I would actually very much like to own one. It's not over concerned, and for those of you who are actually questioning, I legitimately live that close to our Buick, GMC, and Cadillac dealership. For those of you who are map savvy, I may have just revealed my location to you, blah blah blah. I don't really care. So I actually do really enjoy the station wagons and such. That was a very bad point. And that brings us on to the last category, which I finally have examples of, which I have pulled up on my monitor over there. However, I'm not going to be turning the camera because you can't see anything, so it's all post-production. So apparently I'm going to be on this side of the screen while I pull up this vehicle. I am a Corvette enthusiast. I love Corvettes. I've always loved Corvettes. However, I am very picky about the Corvettes that I like. One of the main ones that I like is I actually like the second version of the first generation of Corvettes. My specific years that I prefer is like the 57, 58, 59, when they added the white detailing right behind the front wheels, not in the fenders of course, it's actually on the door panels, but that white detailing actually just kind of made the whole car for me. Before that, the actual first Corvettes aren't bad looking. I just like the little bit of extra detail. Second one I like then is actually the 70s style, which is of course one of the most famous because it's the Stingrays. You know, it's got the big swoopy front fenders, absolutely gorgeous, the thin front, the pop-up headlights, which I still think are ridiculous, but they're fun. Altogether, that is my favorite Corvette of all time. My years that I prefer is like 72, 73, 74, but they continue that body style clear up into like 78, I believe, or 79. And I'm pretty much good with any of them because as long as it is that, of course, Corvette body, I think they're absolutely gorgeous. Now, we have to skip a couple decades because as much as the 80s and the 90s, because you already also noticed I skipped the 60s, I do not like the 60s Corvette. But I skipped the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s because I never really liked any of those body styles. They became too blocky, which it was a common thing in the 80s, and then in the 90s they became really bland. The early 2000s unfortunately didn't fix that a whole ton, but it was once they got to the C6, which is, I don't remember what generation, it's fairly late 2000s, like closer to 2010. I actually started liking them again because for one, they got rid of the pop-up headlights, which I think actually made the front look a little bit better, and they kind of restyled it back into the Stingray style, which as I've already said is my favorite styling. And from that actually brings up my favorite Corvette of modern day and age, which is the modern Corvette. I love the C7 Corvettes. Now, with that, I unfortunately already know that I'm not going to be able to afford one anytime soon just because the ones that I want from factory will be like $73,000 and I do not make enough to make those monthly payments. And even if I get a used one, I'm still looking at almost, $600-700 a month payments and I'm barely making over $1,000. So I still need money to live on, so eventually I'll own a Corvette. But with that actually then brings up some of my specifications. The 2017 and 2018 Corvettes are one of my absolute favorite vehicles, and I consider them to be in my top 5. They are not my number one. My number one's actually going to come up later just because it's a little bit more pricey. But the big thing I can say about the modern Corvettes is that the styling just absolutely gorgeous. I love the performance. I've gotten to sit in one and I actually fit like a glove. Like, I have not found a car as comfortable as when I adjusted everything in the Corvette. Like, it was legitimately awesome. So from there, that's going to just kind of skip that one. The only other thing I can add, I personally prefer the base model. I find that the Grand Sport kind of not as attractive, and I do not like the Z7, the Z06 or whatever, Z07, just because the styling kind of got ruined for me, so I prefer the base model personally. The second vehicle that's definitely in my top 4, once again, the issue is that this is in no specific order other than my favorite car of all time. I absolutely love Mini Coopers, if that's not obvious by the fact that I still drive one. Like, literally, I'm still driving a Mini Cooper every day. I may have a lot of problems with it, and it may be extremely annoying because I do have a first generation Mini Cooper and my steering pump cannot stay fixed at all. I love Mini Coopers when they work. Honestly, I would absolutely love to own a new 2-door hardtop. I am not into the Clubman or the Countryman, and I would love to get a John Cooper Works, which is the top of the line model, the big horsepower. I think it's like a 248 horsepower engine, and that little package with that fun go-kart steering. I would personally go after the automatic transmission with the paddle shifters, just because I'm an entitled millennial who doesn't want to daily drive a manual. That's legitimately my reason too, that I use that for any time somebody tries to convince me of a manual. I genuinely don't want to daily drive a manual. That one's kind of hard to describe the specifics. Full honesty, Mini Coopers are just one of my favorite because I think they're so cute. They're so much fun to drive. The fuel efficiency is amazing, and I have never once had a problem getting groceries in it. I don't understand this whole thing of it doesn't have enough room. I've gotten that more often than not, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people in America do because, of course, the #1 selling vehicles right now are crossovers and SUVs. I don't see the point in having that much room. I may need that much room once to maybe twice a year, and I could rent a U-Haul for that. Not to be unfair, but seriously, I would rather have something that's fuel efficient, something that I find fun to drive, rather than focusing on something that's big. So after this then brings up another one of the controversial cars, besides my love of station wagons. This one is definitely one of the weirdos. I kind of consider the Mini Cooper to be a weirdo just because it kind of stands out on the road anyways. But this one is the weirdo of Chevy. Once again, as I have to probably add in, technically I consider Corvettes to be Corvettes. They are not Chevrolet Corvettes, they are just Corvettes to me. It's a personal thing, it's just they don't really fit in with Chevy anyways. They don't really look like anything else in the GM lineup. Corvettes are a separate thing. This one is definitely a Chevy. 100% has the bow tie badge on the front, definitely a Chevrolet, but it stands out like a sore thumb. This is the SSR. Yep, I like these. In fact, actually, this is the vehicle right now that I can't afford and I'm looking at buying and replacing my Mini Cooper with. I'm not kidding you. So the advantages of this that I at least find personally is, for one, the maintenance of them is extremely low. They have a lot of analog sensors. They are kind of before the age of the computer controlled everything, even though they were released in, of course, 03, 04, 05, and 06, which is when German brands started to add the computers and such. They still did it for the SSR. The ones that I'm looking at, they do actually have Bose audio. You have the option of a manual or an automatic. Once again, I'm going automatic. I don't want to daily drive a manual. I enjoy the fact that they do have the Bose audio. It's a hardtop convertible. Universally, all of them are. As far as I've seen on the SSR forums, which I did join and I've been reading, tall guys fit in them almost no problems. There's the issue of the sight line, which I'm already used to, which is the whole having to duck to see stoplights. I do that anyways in the Mini Cooper. I haven't found a car that I haven't had to do that in, and that even includes my grandma's Honda Pilot. So I think I'm just doomed to have to duck to see stoplights. Other advantages that I have with it is that it is still technically a pickup, so it still can tow 2,500 pounds. It has plenty of power. It actually does have a usable truck bed. You can take off the tonneau cover. It's a little bit difficult though because it's 4 giant bolts, but you can. So it's still a usable pickup. However, the advantages that I find instead are, number one, it actually has a sealable, weatherproofed tonneau cover. It may be controlled by the key fob. I don't care. But the truth of it is that the fact that it is 100% sealed from the environment is a huge advantage for me. Just personally, because I do carry a lot of computers and makeup and other things that I don't really want out in the elements. And this allows me to do that. Secondly, a lot of them did actually come with the carpeted truck bed. Once again, protecting delicate items. I end up having to transport electronics, computers, devices. Honestly, I'm kind of a tech nerd. I have a lot of it. Now, I haven't been transporting them recently, but that's because I haven't had a need. But altogether, having something with the safety in mind of my electronics is huge for me. Next up, of course, the fact that it's a convertible. Like, who doesn't want a convertible who enjoys driving, you know, with all the windows open? I know some people are allergic enough to the outside that they don't want to ever have their windows open while driving. The weather's actually been good the past 3 days, and I've had the sunroof open, all the windows rolled down on my Mini Cooper, and I've been driving everywhere. And the last thing about it that's kind of the most kind of moment for me, I don't have a better way to describe that either, is the fact that it actually, the 2005 and 2006 models, which I'm being really picky about, I want one of those, has the 390 horsepower aluminum V8 that I believe is almost the exact same one in the same generation Corvette. It sounds beautiful. I love it. The disadvantages to it, I will fully admit, ahead of time, it's only a 2-seater, cannot fit any more people, and it's not exactly the most fuel efficient car. I mean, averages I've been seeing is somewhere between like 12 and 14 city, and not even 20 on the highway. I'll be sacrificing that, but for everything else, I think it'll be worth it. And finally, last, but certainly not least, this is my favorite car of the modern era. Not kidding you at all. The Spyker C8 Preliador. This is a car that was built in the Netherlands by a company known as Spyker. The big thing they're known for is the entire body is made of aluminum. Now, for a lot of people, it's like, oh, aluminum? That's what I wrap my baked potatoes in. That may very well be true, but that's aluminum foil. They're using like industrial grade aluminum, which is kind of similar to what, oh, I don't know, Boeing 747 jets are made of. Huge planes, what you use to fly to Cabo. These cars are impressive to me. They have a strong aviation heritage. The cockpits, which is the best way I can describe it, looks like a cockpit of a plane. It's gorgeous. There's the hand stitching on the dashboard. Of course, aluminum is one of the biggest and most strong themes between them. And they're just like hand-built, gorgeous cars, and they just got a brand deal now that they're going to be using Koenigsegg engines. And before then, they were using the V8s from Audi, which was practically the same thing they were dumping into the Audi A8. Is it the A8? R8. There we go. Audi R8. Ugh. Yeah, that was a bad screw up on my part. I absolutely think that they're gorgeous. And the other thing I love about them, and they have introduced an automatic now in recent years just because that's what the market requires, they have a manual transmission still available that uses the biggest element. Like, I'm going to be pulling up as many pictures as I can about this this one. But that shifter that you see there is fully open. If it's the manual, it'll move over and back as you are actually shifting. It is an open shift linkage, and I think it is the most gorgeous design ever. Not to mention the fact that the pedals look like they belong in an old plane, and you know, everything's still hand-stitched leather and like perfect condition, and it's so gorgeous. And the engine, of course, sounds pretty good. That one, unfortunately, I can't give the credit to Spyker. I have to give that to either Audi or Koenigsegg, but they're both amazing brands. And then Spyker is just so beautiful. And I mean, they do have some of the odd things, like they have like no ground clearance. The doors, of course, are the odd, almost scissor doors. Not quite though. I don't even know how to describe the doors. Like they are scissor doors, but they open a little bit closer to like how Aston Martins have been opening recently. Because they're not like the Lamborghini where it's the straight like up. It's more like a full out and up. I don't know. But I find that specifically the C8 Proliador, which is their current running model, or the reigning model I should say, is one of the most gorgeous vehicles I've ever seen. Just because it is just beautiful. The only issue I find with it, and I'm pretty sure I'm never going to own it because of this, it's a $420,000 to $30,000 car. But man, do I want one. Like I even have them pulled up now, and me being a Corvette guy, seriously, my favorite Corvette of all time is that 70s Corvette, and I thought nothing would trump it as my favorite car until I saw this. So apparently I have taste for the Dutch, and actually the Swedish, because I actually find most Koenigsegg's to be quite beautiful too, and they have amazing engine sounds. My issue with Koenigsegg is I just don't want to drive them. I'd be too damn scared to break something. So I guess with that long kind of me having a slight orgasm over the car over on my screen, that brings me to the point of my absolute favorite car of all time is the Spyker C8 Proliador. I would love to own one. I really would. Spyker, if you're at all out there, I'm probably gonna be linking you, just because why not? I don't know. I would love to talk to you guys because you make a beautiful product and I would love it. Like this is one of the only cars I would daily drive a manual. I mean, don't get me wrong, I need to learn how to daily drive a manual a little bit better, so I'd probably have to get like a, I don't know, used 2003 WRX or something just to learn how to drive manual every day. But as soon as I was to the point that I felt confident, I would drive this every day. No questions, nothing. It is gorgeous. That brings us to the conclusion of my multi-way tie that I genuinely cannot decide which one is higher than the rest. So we're just gonna go with all of them. So my tie, I have just confirmed, is a 4-way tie. I cannot decide which of these, what I consider to be weirdos, is my favorite. So let's go into it. Number 1 is the Ferrari GTC4 Lusso, or the GTC4 Lusso T. I actually genuinely think both engines have their advantages. The difference is the GTC4 Lusso has the V12 and the GTC4 Lusso T has the twin turbocharged V8. Both have the advantages. Both I think are gorgeous cars because it's a Ferrari with a hatchback. Like you get the best of both worlds, seriously. Second then it comes to the Porsche. I genuinely love the Porsche Panamera e-hybrid sport. I actually happen to prefer the one that I can't remember the name of, but it's actually got that more station wagon back. Once again, it keeps going back to I like station wagons. However, I think all Panameras have a beauty to them. I like them a little bit better than the 911 just because I find the 911 very, I guess you could say, old. The styling of it hasn't changed in years, so I prefer the Panamera. Aston Martin DB11. Don't have much else to say on that one. I would love a DB11. They're gorgeous cars. They have better ground clearance than I would expect, and they're gorgeous cars, and they're gorgeous cars. And they sound good. Really good. And lastly, the Lamborghini Huracan Spider. I happen to be completely in love with the Spider instead of the base. It's really hard to decide. I cannot put any of these higher than the rest because it's really hard when you're choosing between a Ferrari, an Aston Martin, a Lamborghini, and a Porsche. Like, they're all pretty damn close competitors. Unfortunately, in this one, I know for a fact already that the Ferrari is like the most expensive because I believe the GTC4 Lussos have been going for somewhere around like $350,000, which is more than the DB11, which I think have been going for about $280,000 to $300,000. And then there's the Huracan, which is about $250,000, and then the Panamera is about $200,000. So truthfully, price-wise, it should technically be the Porsche first, but it's not. It's a 4-way tie. I think they're all gorgeous. Now you know my taste in cars, and if you ever would like to see the rest of my list, I have a full spreadsheet here with the list of cars that I all want to own in my collection, like hardcore. Now this doesn't include some of them because I have an idea for a street rod that I want to do. This is most of them. Not even kidding you. This is most of them. I don't have much else on that one. So if you like this video, go ahead and leave a like below. Comment if you'd like me to go through my full list of all the cars that I think are absolutely gorgeous, and I'll go through each and every one of them that I honestly do want to own. For now, at least. This is it. So I guess check out the social medias. They're in the description, blah, 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 other stuff. Don't have much else, so I'm going to see you in another video. Bye. Okay, so hopefully before I completely forget, unfortunately spoil the fact that I'm like filming all these videos like within a very short amount of times. I unfortunately also pretty much all my favorite cars in the weirdest sense, if you want like a little bit of a hint, I like a decent amount of the videos Doug DeMuro has reviewed. Like it's one of those weird culminations every time like I start talking about a new car that I really like, he suddenly has a video on it. Even if it's like an old one that I suddenly start like, he makes a video on it in like literally 2 months. It is the most bizarre thing. So apparently I have similar taste to Doug DeMuro, other than I disagree with his love of 90s cars. I think they're god awful. Simple as that. So, hi Doug! I doubt you're going to see this.
Alright, ready, here we go.